I'd like us to bend our hearts and minds and spirits to the subject, Pride and Prejudice, the journey to worship. Pride and Prejudice, the journey to worship. And the scriptures are from Psalm 132, Isaiah 26. Psalm 132, verses 3 through 5 and 8 read, he said, I will not go inside my house or lie down in my bed. I will not even rest my eyes. I will not take comfort in sleep until I find a dwelling place for you, the eternal, a holy residence dedicated to the mighty one of Jacob. Eternal one, arise and go to your new home and the ark of your strength. Isaiah 26:18 reads, we were with child, we rise, but we gave birth only to wind. We have won no victories on earth, and no one is born to inhabit the world. And the cover of the bulletin, the cover scripture was from Psalm 132, verses 14 through 16, and they read, this is my sanctuary, my resting place forever and ever. I will remain here, for this is what I have desired. I will bless Zion with an endless supply of all she needs. I will satisfy the bellies of her hungry with bread. I will clothe her priests with salvation, and songs of joy will erupt from the hearts and mouths of her godly people. Pride and Prejudice, the journey to worship. I actually began this conversation in Bible study this week, asking the question, how do you run to God? What causes you to run to God? How do you do it? And we come to church to worship. If you were here last Sunday, you may have noticed that the atmosphere was different. It was more worshipful in many ways. And part of that was attributed to the fact that we didn't have the food pantry on Sunday. We gave that food out on Saturday. And so nobody had to be concerned about getting through the door to get something after service. We're trying so that people will understand that you don't get food, but Sunday, this day is for worship. And these passages that the Lord gave me for this week are about worship. Let's see how this sermon works out. We live in the United States of America, right? Yes. The richest country in the world, the richest country in history. And still, in 2016, on Native American reservations, they have the highest number of rapes of girls and women anywhere in the country. You know why? Because people who are not Native American come on the reservation and they rape the little girls and the women and they leave the reservation. And guess what the U.S. government says? We don't have, the Native police don't have jurisdiction off the reservation. That's what they say. And because they don't have jurisdiction off the reservation, people can come and rape and pillage, and in fact, they never get prosecuted. And so, as it happens, Native Americans are a little mad about that. If you rape someone, you tear their insides out. And it looks like their government is allowing that to happen over and over and over and over again. And basically, when the government does nothing about atrocity like that, people get mad and sad. And the madder people get, the sadder they get, the more likely we are to have some kind of insurrection. People rise up in many ways.
they perform what are called microaggressions, little acts of aggression, because if you don't have a lot of power, you don't do a big aggression, you do a microaggression, because that's all you can do. Now, a whole lot of microaggressions will end up to be a big old war if we don't take care of such things. In this country, we have the Black Lives Matter campaign, and that's because black babies are being killed by police officers, and society says it's okay. Now, some of you have relatives who are policemen. Not all police are bad, but the fact of the matter is, if you do not know it, the proportion of African American babies being killed by police is off the chains. And so if you're African American and you have a child or somebody in your family is young, you worry about their safety. It doesn't have to make sense to everybody else. You know good and well that your babies are at stake when they come out of the house. Nobody else may experience that, but I experienced that as an African American person who has young people in my family. And it makes me mad. And it makes me sad. And when people get mad and sad long enough, we don't want to hear get over it. We want to hear what you're going to do about it. And if you can't do anything about it, then we have to say, well, what are we going to do about it? And when people are mad and sad, sometimes what they decide to do is not something that's very good or safe for everybody else. In this country, we have the rise of, in the state of Virginia for the last election, over 365,000 people voted for Donald Trump to be the next Republican candidate.
God help them.
Now, we can say what we want about those people, and I've said a lot about them, but buffoon, as though I think Donald Trump is, the question is, why are people turning to him? What is he resonating with? He's resonating with poor white folks who believe the government has mucked them over. That's who he's resonating with. The truth of the matter is, if he were to get into office, he's already making us a laughing stock among the world, but if he were to get into office, he would not do any of what he says he's going to do, but people are mad and sad because they think that their rights have been trampled upon. They think that nobody's paying attention to them. They think that the elite educated Americans of this country have deemed them dumb hillbillies and rednecks and forgotten about them. There's always a reason why people do what they do. There's always. It may not make sense to you, but folks know what they're doing and why they're doing it. We have a unique opportunity as a church because we got some of everybody up in here. It doesn't mean we are all here, but we have to work very hard to work together. It doesn't just happen that we have unity. Unity must be worked at. When I got here, there were some African American folks who were, oh, we got representation now. We can come to her and get some of what we want because she's African American like me. And I have to quickly say, I'm the pastor for everybody.
Preach.
You got to say stuff. See, it doesn't work to just put stuff on the back burner and go, oh, it might work out. Oh, no. It never works like that. You have to address stuff. So I can tell folks, I hope you don't think that I can do this for you because we're both African American. Because the truth of the matter is, the Lord has put me in this church to help pastor all the people up in here. And so while I understand your concern, I can't do it the way you're asking me to do it because it's unfair.
Yes, sir.
And then we know you. Part of what it means to be a pastor is that you know the people that God has sent you to work with. We know that some folk go to Pastor Lynn because she's got a soft heart and they think they can work their way around her. We know that. Yeah. We know that. And the division between who gets to deal with whom is not because I got my people, Pastor Lynn's got her people, Reverend Gray got his people, because we don't have any people. God has all the people. God it's a church. God has all the people. And if I got some people me, why do you think Pastor Liz can go away now? Because she's got leaders who stick with her.
And trust her.
And trust her. And who she can trust. Because I have pastored before as I pastor now. And I don't lead my people to just anybody.
Preach.
You don't do that. If I can't trust you, I'm not going to leave you with my people. The people whom God has sent me to work with, to love and care for. You don't put a wolf in the sheep pen. Because when you come back, the sheep's going to be dead. You put a wolf in there, what did you expect? How do we unify? How do we unify? We begin to unify in worship. In worship, everybody has stuff that they do that they're proud of. Some of the stuff we do that we're proud of is nasty, low down, and dirty. But it's our low down, nasty stuff, and we like it. Everybody has some prejudice. I grew up in this town. Would not come in this section of the town, Belmont, because it was poor white. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm not trying to be offensive, I'm telling you the truth. And they had a line, there was a line drawn in the sand, and if you stepped over the line into Belmont, you would get your tail beat. And I don't know about you, but on any given day, I prefer not to have my tail whipped. And sometimes all you have to do not to get your tail whipped is just don't go where you're going to get your tail whipped.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
this is not rocket science. But here we are in a church in the middle of Belmont, Charlottesville, Virginia, and everything in my 60 years tells me I ought not to be in Belmont. But guess what? This is where God has put me. This is where God says you have work to do among these people in this place. And not only are there poor whites here, but there are poor blacks, poor Hispanics, there are poor Asians coming, and not so poor people, and some well-off people, whatever kind of people. They're all people. All of us are people. We have that in common. Now.
Here comes the real preaching.
We all want to be special. And we want to think that we are God's people exclusively. We want God's folk to look just like us, sound like us, think like us, vote like us, eat what we eat. And I'm sorry, God is not interested in that. Get on. Because what God's people most look like is what's inside here. Now, there are a lot of churches in this area, in this city, that are dying. You know why? Because they want folks to look like, act like, talk like, walk like them. And if you go in many of these churches on a Sunday morning, they got 5 people up in there. Big old buildings, all the bills paid. Lovely, lovely buildings. Choir director, youth minister, Sunday school board, but guess what? No church. No people. No church. So, it takes more than a building. It takes more than a group of folks who look like, talk like, act like, sing like each other to be the Church of Jesus Christ. It just does. It takes the Spirit of God dwelling in and among the people. But before that happens, we have to invite God in and dedicate the sanctuary to God's work. We have to do that. We can only do so much. All that we can do for God is to give Him glory, to worship Him in spirit and truth. It's all we can do. It's all human beings can manage, but it's everything that we must do. Just because we call church on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock at 2030 East Market Street, God does not have to show up. We have to make God welcome. We have to show God that we are willing to listen for his voice and to do what he asks us to do and to learn to love each other. You have to learn to love me. I'm a prickly kind of person. And it's prickly because I can't help myself. After a while, I'm just going to tell you the truth. I can put up with a little bit for a minute and then after a while, why are you doing that? Why you keep on doing that? Do you know you have stepped on my feet 15 times? Now, the first 3 times I thought it might have been a mistake, but I'm getting to think that you mean to step on my toe. And maybe you think I have some kind of special status as a pastor so that when you step on my toes, it doesn't hurt. But I'm here to tell you, I've got human feet, so if you step on my toes, it hurts. Stop stepping on my feet! If you want us to get along. Now, if you don't want us to get along, well, that's another story. I gotta have you differently. You understand? You understand? We don't have rocket science. We don't have this. I'm not asking us to do anything that's above our ability to think and reason up in here today. I'm talking plain, common sense. Just as you don't go into the house of somebody who does not welcome you, God doesn't either. God doesn't come in a place where God isn't welcome, and there are telltale signs that God is not welcomed in place. Go, take it back to the first text, Brother Cliff. Thank you.
Right there?
At the beginning, yeah. The sign that God is not welcome is that we don't welcome people. We don't welcome whoever comes. That's the first sign. Another sign is when we want it to be just what we want it to be.